And thanks for press and play on this episode of Two and Out. We are continuing our quest to preview the season for all 9 CFL clubs. And right now we are talking about the reigning Grey Cup champion Toronto Argonauts. Mike Hogan is here to talk double blue with us. Thanks for being here, Mike.
Great to be back, gentlemen. Thanks for asking.
10-8 last year, but they were the champs at the end of the day, beating Ottawa, Montreal, and Winnipeg in the playoffs. Now, recent history says the Argos kind of struggled the year after winning a Grey Cup. But this year, a lot of changes. What stands out to you the most after that Grey Cup year?
Before we move along, don't forget after we won in 2022, we went 16-2 in the regular season.
Okay, that's true.
So I don't know if that we didn't win the cup, but I don't know if that's a monumental struggle. Boy,
Yeah.
you guys have high standards. My God.
I guess I'm thinking 2017 and 2012 and that kind of thing. But fair enough.
Yeah, but you're right about the changes. I mean, on defense anyway. I mean, special teams, same guys. Janarian Grant's back, Liram Hirala, who's back, John Haggerty's back, all stars last year. Janarian, the most outstanding special teams player in the league. Offense, change at right tackle coming, and Makai Polka's out. He's down in Atlanta right now. That's it. Everybody else is back. Darius Sirocco comes back after an injury. Sage Dockstader, high hopes for him. He was 13th overall, I think, a couple of years ago. Been plying his trade down in the States for a couple of years. Yeah, this team offensively is the same, and we'll see when Chad Kelly's ready to go, whether it's week 1 or not. As we sit here, I haven't been to Guelph yet. I've been just kind of talking to people via text. I go out Saturday and join everybody for the full camp, which opens on Sunday. Chad will be back this year. It's just a question of when, not if. But last year he missed 9 games, and the team was able to weather the storm offensively. Defensively, we got some changes, as the defensive line of a year ago is basically gone.
Yeah. And the amount of depth that the Argos had on the D-line was actually wild. Like, even the players that they were rotating in last year were still effective. But when you lose even just 2 of them, like Serezna and Urimilade, but then, of course, Jared Brinkman, I think, is going to be a monster in the CFL for a while. Are there some new D linemen that you're... Oh, Robbie Smith, too. Like, wow. Ralph Hawley goes to the NFL. Who are some of the new names?
Is that all?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the guy to watch, and fans kind of got a little bit of him last year, was Derek Parrish. Vince Magri, when he was the assistant general manager here, that was a guy that he was thrilled to get. He had been kind of on him even back to when he was in college. He looks a lot stylistically like Flo Urimilade. I'm not saying he's there yet, but he's that kind of undersized, super high motor. He's got that ghost move that Urimilade had as well. So that's probably a guy that you're going to want to watch. Lanier is over from Saskatchewan. Brian Cox is over from Saskatchewan. Christmas has played in the league. Hab has played in the league. But you're right. Somebody's got to step up from the new guys. And, last year nobody had heard of Ralph Hawley outside of the organization. He was actually, when Brinkman got hurt, he was behind Williams on the depth chart. Then Williams got hurt. And right. Hawley took over, and in half a season led the league in sacks.
Wow.
So, you talk about the depth, that's where it is. So I'm sure there are 1 or 2 guys that, aside from, being a name on a depth chart right now, nobody in the CFL knows. The odds are, with the track record the scouting department has had, that 1 or 2 of those guys will step up.
Yeah. So keeping with, I guess, defense, I kind of want to talk about coaching next. So we did get some new coaches on the defensive side of the ball here. You lost half of the defensive coordinator basically last year when
When Will went
Fields
up to
went
Ottawa.
over to Ottawa, right? And then now, so you have Jason Shivers, who used to be the defensive coordinator in Saskatchewan and Edmonton there. And then also, interestingly enough, as a former Rider head coach, Greg Marshall. We were told we hadn't seen the last of him, and now finally he's back. So what do you think the new coaching staff on the defense going to do?
Well, Shivers is home, right? I mean, he
Yeah,
started his playing career here. He started his coaching career here. There's a familiarity there. He and Ivan were teammates back in the day here with the Argos, so they know each other well. Whatever they did last year, Coach Ivan and Coach Fields worked, obviously. We saw what that defense was doing in the postseason. I'm sure that Jason will come in and bring his own approach, yet do it in tandem with Kevin, and they'll be fine. You mentioned Greg Marshall. I mean, he did leave the CFL, but he's still been coaching at the U Sports level. Actually, had a hell of a run with U of T, which is never an easy thing to do, as well as Queens, and he was up in Ottawa last year. He knows the defensive line position. He was the defensive player of the year in the CFL as a defensive end back with the Ottawa Rough Riders. He knows the league really well. So with Ivan still there, with the continuity, they're fine. They'll be just fine and dandy.
So I gotta ask about the co-defensive coordinator thing. Like, obviously it worked last year. It worked great. I don't know if I've seen anything like it. Can you talk about that dynamic a little bit? Obviously this year different with a new face coming in, but it's definitely interesting to see it done that way.
Yeah, and it worked. I mean, obviously. But Ivan is still kind of the positional coach with the linebackers. And like Will was last year, Jason will do that with the defensive backs this year. They'll come together, formulate their strategy for the week, and then Kevin will call the plays on game day. So that's the way it works. But Jason's obviously going to, as are all of the coaches on both sides of the football, they all have input. And then somebody,
Yeah.
the buck's got to stop somewhere. Defensively, it's with two guys taking everything and formulating a game plan, and then Kevin implementing it. So, but the co-coordinators, and I still haven't figured out, is it co-defensive coordinators or defensive co-coordinators?
Well, that's a great question.
I've written both. And
Oh, you
is
have?
that
Okay.
Is that, or is it which? I don't know.
I'm sure maybe you were concerned as well that maybe Wynton McManis was going to leave in the offseason, but securing him, obviously massive for the defense. And then the trade with Calgary, Cameron Judge coming by. So Judge and McManis side by side in the linebacking core, that's could be a pretty dynamic duo.
And the one thing, any pro athlete, when they have a bad year, they want to make up for it, right? And when Cam was here before in 2021, he was hurt. I think he only played 8 games, and wasn't effective. He wasn't Cam Judge. For us to go out and get him and bring him back, I spoke to him the day after the trade, and he said, "I got something to prove." And it was like, good. That's what everybody wants to hear outside of Toronto.
Yeah.
Because, when you've got those two, and I don't know if Manger, he'll probably start he could play Sam, he could play safety, he could play anywhere in the secondary. But you look at that as a 1-2-3 linebacker core, or even if you just want to look at Mike and Will linebackers as being true linebackers, I don't think there's a better duo in the league than McManis and Judge.
Now, I guess I just got to ask you about the quarterbacks because, of course, Chad Kelly maybe he is good to go for week 1, but the Grey Cup MVP is still with the team. And what valuable time even Dukes got last year, starting half the season. And of course, in the Grey Cup, it proved to be so valuable to have somebody with an experience that could step in and get the job done. It does seem like an embarrassment of riches almost in the Toronto quarterback room.
Yeah, it's not bad. When Kelly's going, I mean, obviously as a personality, people love him, people hate him. And you need heroes and villains to have a good movie, right? So, we know what he can do as a quarterback, and he's phenomenal when he's on. We saw that in the playoffs. So what he did to Ottawa in the postseason, what he did to Ottawa in the regular season to clinch home field in the divisional semifinal, he was just stupidly good. So we know what he can do. But if he is out for a week or two to start the season, I don't know what the case is. I'm sure Dinwiddie will address that on Sunday. But if he's not able to go, like you say, you've got the Grey Cup MVP there. And when Chad went down in the Eastern Final at the end of the third quarter last year, nobody had any doubt that Nick could get it done. And nobody had a doubt that Ryan Dinwiddie and the coaching staff would put him in the best situation and call the right plays for him. Dinwiddie's a very skilled play caller, obviously, and put him in the best position to win. And heading into the final last year in Vancouver, and I don't say this as a slight at all against Winnipeg, but the mindset was, we're good, we're fine. Chad's not here, next man up. Everybody has confidence in Nick. We're going to win the football game, and that's what happened. It was a very business-like approach last year to Grey Cup week, and really that's the way that this team looks at every week. The goal, I know it's a cliche now here in Toronto anyway, but the goal, the mantra is let's go 1-0 this week, and guys have bought into that. And if it ain't broke, don't break it, as Charles Oakley used to say. And it's working right now and has worked for the Argos. So I don't think that there's anybody worried at all. We want to see Chad back and healthy, but if he's not ready to go, nobody doubts Nick as a Grey Cup MVP. And Cam actually started 9 games last year. Chad came back for 9, but he didn't start the last game of the regular season, so he started 8. And Cam had started 8 to begin the season. Nick started 1, so it was 9-8-1 in starts with Cam Dukes having the most. So he's got experience now in another offseason and another training camp. So nobody doubts our depth and ability at quarterback.
Obviously, coming into a season as the champs is a nice luxury to have that only one team has, but they also come with less distractions than last year. And I don't know how Coach handled last year, but either way, it has to be a nice burden to have in the past going into this season rather than, how it started last year.
Yeah, no question. I mean, there were media outlets coming to cover the Argos that don't cover the Argos, and it wasn't to do anything with football. So that is in the rearview mirror right now. You never want to talk about a player being injured with a serious injury like Chad had, but last year to a degree, I think the organization kind of treated it as an injury with him out of the lineup in terms of a distraction. He wasn't working out with the team during that period. So he was like an injured player who had gone home to rehab. And when he came back and was in the lineup. So from a mental standpoint, that's the way that it was handled last year. This year, don't have to worry about that. And hopefully Chad's ready to go week 1.
And just an observation on the last couple of years in the CFL. You did mention the 16-2 season for the Argos. Didn't go the way they wanted in the East Final. And then but last year, to start the year, the Alouettes were on fire. And everyone had written off basically the rest of the East, saying Alouettes are going to be going back to the Grey Cup. So maybe starting slower and coming together in the playoffs might be the better route when it comes to the Canadian Football League.
But it is a marathon, not a sprint, right? I know that's an old cliche as well, but you can have the best team on paper, and it's whoever gets hot at playoff time, right? And last year that was us. We got hot. Everybody was back. Mackay Polk was ridiculously good. I think he had 500-yard games out of like 9 starts. Like, it was crazy how good he was. Like, it was just nuts. And in the playoffs, he was really good as well, especially in the Ottawa game last year. So somebody's got to step up and replace him. And nobody knew who Mackay Polk was outside of the organization last year, right? All of a sudden, he becomes this star, and now he's down in the NFL. So, who knows if he's going to stick? I mean, when you're in the CFL, you always hope that a player who's within your organization goes to the NFL and sticks because it's life-changing money, potentially, right? But if he doesn't stick, we'd be glad to have him back. Same with Ralph Hawley. So, what's our lineup going to look like going into the playoffs? God forbid somebody gets hurt. We were ridiculously healthy last year. I mean, probably historically healthy going into the postseason last year. And until Chad's injury in the Eastern Final. So who knows how it is this year? Another team may be as healthy as we were a year ago, kind of roll that up, but we're hoping that if we do end up with some injuries, our depth will carry us through. It did last year when we needed it. So this is a very good roster. I know some of the names will be unfamiliar or a little curious to people who kind of watch the Argos but don't watch the rest of the league closely. But this is a pretty good roster.
And it did seem as the year went on, the excitement in Toronto and the atmosphere at BMO just got better and better. And it really seems like this could be an awesome year of football in the Six.
Yeah, we had last year, I think, if you look at the attendance for if you include the playoff game, the first 9 games, I think the average was around 12,500, which is not acceptable. We've got to get better there. We know that. But for the last 6 games, I think it was around 18,000. Which, when you look at historically what the Argo attendance has been at since the team moved to BMO Field, it's pretty good. It's that next step up. And then, the next goal is to make it 18,000 throughout the entire season, and then get to 20 and have to open up the upper deck on the far side and get rid of those unfortunate television shots when nobody's sitting on the east side of the stands. And, you get that vision of empty seats, even though the other side of the stadium is pretty full. Yeah. So if only we could shoot into the sun, right? That would be so much easier. But it's going in the right direction. Again, it's a tough market, and a lot of people spend their disposable income on rent and food, and then there's Blue Jays in the summer, and Leafs in the fall, and Raptors in the fall, and TFC, and the Scepters are making their mark in the market as well. So there's a lot of options, and that's just from a sports perspective. So we know we've got a lot of tough work to do, but there's a lot of smart people, a lot smarter than I am, doing a lot of really good work.
Training camp, of course, we're days away from the official start of that. When I look through the Argos roster, it does look like significant battles at DB, defensive line. Like linebackers a mile long as well. So there's going to be, it looks like, some significant battles going on there. So finally, I'll just ask you about and I look because we saw what the Elks did last year. For a time, they had a 3-headed monster in the backfield. I see Brown, Carey, and McMahon all there, and they've all had success in the CFL, so that might be a fun bit to watch for the Argos. But just the job that Pinball has done, because it seems like, last year there were changes, and bringing in Janarian Grant, like how big of a signing that was to Toronto. And Coxie, we're going to get a year of him, 6'3", 200 pounds. Like, it just seems like they still have guys that can step into there and make amazing plays, and the depth that's been built, they can afford some of these losses. But the consistent roster build in Toronto since Dinwiddie has been there, it's been, I think, the envy of many across Canada.
Yeah, I think his record is something stupid like 27-7 at home. Wow. Since he took over. I wish I had that number. I think that's it though. But the guys who have been around for a while appreciate this. My first 2 years working with the Argos, aside from doing play-by-play, but becoming their communications manager, the 2 years were 4-14 and 4-14, right? Yeah. Those were good. And then we had COVID. So the first 3 years working with the organization were not a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. The last 4 years have been fun. And, pinball's got a lot to do with it. I don't think there's any coincidence at all that the team really started to flourish when Mike Clemons took over as general manager. And it does get frustrating when people say, it's just a figurehead. He's in on the decisions. He'll let the football people be the football people, but when a decision has to be made, the buck stops at his desk. And guys feed off that. And, when you go into work every day and, the guy whose office is, 20 feet from my desk comes over and he greets everybody and with a high five or a hug or a handshake and, hi, how you doing this morning? And means it, right? He listens. I think that means a lot, and that does trickle down throughout the organization. He wants to be the best organization in the league on and off the field, and obviously there have been some challenges over his tenure, but I think I think he's done a really good job, and I think maybe the Argos have become the Calgary Stampeders from a few years ago, where that was the team that everybody measured themselves against to get to that, not for a year or two, but for a high level. And then Winnipeg has obviously been there as well since then. But now with 2 Grey Cups in 3 years, and since 2017, 3 Grey Cups, maybe the team has moved into that position now on the CFL depth charts in terms of organizational strength.
Week 1 is less than a month away in Montreal, so some heavy hitters in the East off to the races. I know it's a marathon, not a sprint, but that's definitely a game that will probably prove to be pretty important for standings at the end of the year and home field advantage when it comes to the playoffs. Mike Hogan is the voice of the Toronto Argonauts, the communications manager as well. So thanks for being here to talk about Double Blue football for 2025.
Anytime at all, guys. Just pick up the phone.
Thanks again to Mike Hogan for coming on the show to talk about Double Blue football for 2025. That is Team 2 of 9 as we move along the CFL to preview the 2025 season. To get the other team previews that we've already done or the ones that are still to come, you can rate, review, and subscribe to Tune Out on your favorite podcatcher. Check us out on YouTube as well. I'm Travis Currah with Sheldon Jones, and for Mike Hogan, thanks for tuning in, and yeah, we will talk to you on the next preview.